Chloe and welcome to my channel.
Just being me.
When it comes to autism in the media, representation is few and far between. Examples of genuine, non-stereotyped, non-harmful autistic characters are so few and far between, in fact, that it would probably be easier to find a needle in a haystack. Not me using metaphors. Okay, neurotypical culture, come through. So, when the media refuses to give us accurate autism representation, it is up to us to find the representation ourselves. Because of this lack of representation, autistic people end up finding characters that we code as autistic or neurodivergent. Characters that, while the creators and producers and directors didn't necessarily deem as actual autistic people, they have enough traits, we feel ourselves enough in these characters to go, babes, go get a diagnosis. There are so many of these characters. There are enough characters to do an entire series on, and I am very, very excited to do said mini-series on this. But with that being said, let's get started on the very first one. Here are 5 different autistic coded characters. Before we get started, look how cute my little setup is. I've got my little Titanic poster here. I've got my 3 little babies in the back. I've got Evangeline, she's my Australian green tree frog. I have got my 2 beta fish here. The names are Neptune and Mercury. And then I have got my little axolotl here. Her name is Lottie. I'm getting distracted. Let's go. Number 1, Beth Harmon. Beth Harmon from The Queen's Gambit is such a beautiful portrayal of an autistic woman. The community has found her and has absolutely claimed her as our own. She beautifully showcases masking, hyperfixations, and rapid tone speech in a monotone way. She's intelligent, socially awkward, and often seen as reserved and socially distant. A lot of the times, it looks like Beth is analysing what she's going to say before she actually says it. And when she does end up speaking her mind and saying what she wants to say completely off the cuff, it's clear that what she's saying isn't what people expect her to say based on her gender, her age, and her status. Something that is very, very common in autistic people. Autistic people, particularly autistic women, tend to have a very, very advanced speech pattern. And despite lacking in our social cues and our ability to speak to other people sometimes, our vocabulary and the way we speak is often seen as very mature and very advanced. Beth is often puzzled by the actions of others, doesn't fit in very well, is happy to be alone, is unregimented, and, to be quite frank, is a complete mess. This in itself is very, very interesting and super wicked because although she isn't an actual autistic character as defined by the directors and the creators of this show, it is something that we never actually see in autism portrayals. So regardless on whether or not she actually is autistic, the fact that we have a coded autistic character who is presenting themselves in a way like this rather than being completely structured, completely regimented in, I'm gonna cry if my routine breaks, which, yes, I do. But that's beside the point. We're seeing a new part of autism that we never get to see in media, and I think that's something that is really, really awesome and can potentially pave the way for more characters that are more diverse that are also autistic. Number 2, Vanellope Von Sweets. I have literally made an entire YouTube video already dedicated to my absolute obsession for this character and all of my different reasons as to why she is so very clearly autism coded. I am so beyond obsessed with this character and think that out of every single character on this list, she's not only the most autism coded but the most beautiful portrayal of autism, particularly for a young audience. Vanellope is so unashamedly different, and not just in the things that we make obvious, such as the fact that she glitches and the fact that she's very clearly an outcast, but in the small things, in her personality, in her style, and the way that she presents herself. She is so clearly different and so clearly so beautifully unique and absolutely thrives on that. These differences, well, although the entire film showcases that other people don't appreciate and respect those differences at the start, is what makes her so beautiful and so special. Her glitches, her tics, her stims are what makes her so amazing. And I think one of the reasons that I love this character so much is that her glitches, as in our tics and our stims, they never get taken away. Most people, when there's a disabled character, when there's a different character, those things that make them different, unless they're aesthetically appealing to the audience, get taken away. However, with Vanellope, minor spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen the movie, that's on you. At the end of the film, she changes. She becomes a princess again, a prime minister, a president, whatever it is. And even though she has changed, her glitch stays. The thing that everyone has said was an ultimate bad thing about her is one of the things that stayed, is the only thing that stayed about her. Ultimately showing that your stims, your tics, your things that society says is wrong and different about you is something that is so incredibly important to your entire being. There's actually a scene in the second movie, which is probably my favorite scene in complete cinematic history, where this young girl comes up to Vanellope's game and she chooses Vanellope, and she says the reason that she's going to choose Vanellope is because her glitch is her superpower. Girl, I'm literally about to cry. My eyes are pricking with tears right now. I cannot believe that there is a movie that so proudly embraces the different, even when those differences are not deemed acceptable by society. Oh my god, girl, I'm out. I love this movie so much. Ha, chill. Okay. Number 3, Sherlock Holmes. He's not a psychopath. He's not a high-functioning sociopath. He's autistic! I am incredibly late to the Sherlock trend. I'm very, very late to the party. I know that there was like a whole Sherlock phase on Tumblr and I missed it, and it is probably my biggest life regret that I missed the Sherlock phase when it was in fact a phase, and I just didn't involve myself in it because it is currently my biggest hyperfixation. I am so obsessed with this show. I'm so obsessed with Sherlock's character. It's not even funny. I should get help for this. Like, it's not healthy. I discovered BBC's version of Sherlock late last year, and from the opening credits, I was besotted with him. Sherlock's blunt, as it is mannerisms, are so depictant of autism. He also gets antsy and agitated when he can't hyperfixate on what his special interests are. He deeply struggles with feelings of frustration, and he struggles to understand and comprehend abstract concepts despite his obvious incredible intelligence. Now, I know there's a bit of controversy in the whole Sherlock fandom about, like, is he autistic or does he just have trauma? Because a lot of the symptoms of both trauma and autism can become very depictant of each other. They can look very similar. I'm diagnosed with PTSD, and one of the reasons why it took me so long to get a diagnosis is because everyone was like, she's just showing classic symptoms of PTSD. Also, girls can't be autistic. But I think there are so many instances that showcase us that Sherlock is an autistic human being, and I think he is such a beautiful example of it. I understand that he is quite a stigmatized and quite a stereotyped version of autism, but with that being said, autism is so diverse, and I know autistic people that are very similar to Sherlock, and I see myself in so many of his own traits as well, and I think I just love him. I love him so much. He is my comfort character. He's my comfort show. Every single time that I'm feeling a little bit that I want to escape from the world, I'm like, let's go catch up with all the episodes of Sherlock all at once. Also, in a Hounds of Baskerville episode, John literally says that Sherlock is autistic. So, there's that as well. Anyway, number 4, Amelie. I first watched Amelie last year with my pa after he watched a quirky French film with a lead character who was just like you. I think she's probably autistic, and as usual, my pa was right. Within moments of seeing the opening credits, I was convinced and awed and besotted by Amelie's personality, her quirks, and her behaviors. Amelie often misunderstands other people and social cues and social interactions. Her facial expressions are often quite blank, and she has a large love for the really small things in life. Cracking creme brulee, skipping stones, and her character has such a deep, intense need for sensory input. Again, something that we're not necessarily used to seeing in an autistic character, or any character for that matter. There's multiple scenes in the film when we see Amelie dipping her fingers into a bag of beans and grains because of the sensory input that it gives her. It's such a simple, beautiful moment, and something that we're not necessarily used to seeing. With all of this, it seems that Amelie isn't necessarily the only autism-coded character in the film. Her dad gets deep satisfaction out of stripping wallpaper off, lining up his shoes and polishing them excessively, emptying his toolbox just to put it all back together, all very classic autism traits. And her mother also enjoyed rearranging things, hated people touching her, specifically her hair, and overall the entire family seems very autistic. But something I love about this film, regardless of whether his character is supposed to be autistic or not, is the autism-coded traits are always very background information. No more than an extra scene in an already beautifully quirky plot. It's never suggested that Amelie may be autistic or neurodivergent, but I think all of these autism-coded scenes are just what makes this film so much more beautiful, and just what makes Amelie's character so much more charming and relatable for me. Number 5. Anne Shirley. Not only is Anne an absolute feminist icon, not only is Anne an absolute feminist icon, but I think she may also be autistic. Anne babbles on and on about her special interests so deeply to the point that she doesn't know, nor does she really care if other people are interested. Something that I am incredibly guilty of. My mum tells me all the time that when I was a kid, I would absolutely ramble on about the Titanic and different animal facts, and I didn't care if other people were interested. The only thing that was important to me was passing on this information. She also gets fixated on things and people to the point of imitating them. Masking, such as her Lady of the Lake reenactment, this trait in itself being extremely common for autistic girls. And again, it's something that is super uncommon to see in movies, and it's something really wicked that we are actually starting to see in autism representation, even if said autism representation isn't actually autism representation, and also grew up using these special interests as a way to cope with the world and make better sense and understanding of it. Now, I may be reaching here, we're lacking in autistic women in the media, let me have this. But Anne also experiences echolalia, meaning vocal stimming, the act of mimicking and repeating words, noises, and phrases. She's also incredibly sensitive, misunderstood, and feels emotions intensely. Another massive trait of autism in women, but something that is never spoken about. She also has an all or nothing sort of mindset, an 100% or a 0% sort of mindset, which is very, very common in ADHD as well. And overall, whether it's ADHD, autism, or some other sort of neurodivergency, I am absolutely convinced that Anne is neurodivergent coded, and a beautiful character for neurodivergent folk to look to. And I think that's the biggest thing. Regardless of whether or not these 5 characters are actually supposed to be autistic, ADHD, neurodivergent in some way, the fact that we now have representation, regardless on whether or not we actually see that word and see that actual diagnosis and identity, I think it's amazing that we are starting to see these characters, which finally we can look to and say, they're like me. I don't feel so completely bonkers now. I don't feel completely alien. I don't feel like I don't fit into this world, because these characters, these main characters in these amazing films and TV shows are just like me. We still do have an incredibly long way to go when it comes to autism representation and neurodivergent representation in media, particularly for women. We never see it, and the only representation that we have is created by able-bodied neurotypical people. We have such a long way to go when it comes to representation, but it is starting to happen, and I am so excited to turn on the television one day and see an autistic woman, see an ADHD woman, see someone that has an invisible disability, see someone that is just like me, and they just so happen to be just like me. Their purpose in the show isn't to be our token disabled character. Their purpose in the show isn't to be played by an able-bodied neurotypical person when they are pretending to be what they assume my brain is like. They are simply there, and they are being played by disabled people. I am so excited for that day, and I can guarantee you, I promise you, it is coming. So anyway, there you have it. There are 5 different autism-coded characters in the media. Who are your favorite autism-coded characters? Who do you like the most? What characters do you relate to the most that you are absolutely positive must be autistic as well? Let me know in the comments down below, and let me know if you guys would like more of this, because I have got so many autism coded characters, girl. I haven't even got to my favorite yet. I'm so excited to tell more about them. Also, while you guys are here, I have just released my new iSparkles merch. If you guys would like to purchase it, you guys can have a look at the link down in my bio. I'm so excited about this. I'm about to release more merch as well. I'm so excited. There are so many things happening. I'm so excited. There is so much happening. It's very, very good. It's very, very exciting. Anyway, I hope you guys are staying kind to yourself. I hope you guys are staying kind to other people. I hope you guys are staying hydrated. Stay hydrated. Drink your water. Also wear your mask. I love you guys so much, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.
Just be me.